taken from this place to the public square, bound to the stake, and burned alive until death claims him. So is the will of king and church.
Only a moment, and then I face the just and fearful judgment that you too will soon be called.
The Freemasons have left their mark on history, but the meaning behind their symbols and rites is often a puzzle. In Part 2, we'll reveal how the mysterious fraternity quietly influenced politics, arts, and science across the centuries. Welcome back to the Common Anomaly podcast. I'm your host, Stuart James. Joining me today is Clayton James. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing good.
Fantastic. We're back. Part 2.
Yes.
Part 2 with our friends, the Freemasons, hey? Yeah, the last episode was just so strong and seemed to really resonate with our audience. Kind of surprised me. And we had so much we just didn't get into. There's so much to cover with this topic, and we couldn't get to everything in an hour. So, yeah, we're doing a follow-up episode. How do you feel?
Well, you can't really talk about the Freemasons without talking about all of world history.
Exactly.
They seem to have been there all along in some form or another. I remember the last episode we did on the Freemasons, you were talking about where to start. I'm like, do we start with the ancient Egyptians? Do we start with the Templars? Or do we start with like modern masonry? And you said start with the modern stuff. And I said, oh great, I'll just skip over these like
10 pages of
3
notes.
pages of notes that I diligently
well,
wrote
now
out.
You had all your homework done in advance for this episode.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fantastic. So are we going all the way back to Egypt today?
No, I think we did touch on ancient Egypt.
That's maybe going too far.
In the first episode,
Yeah.
But the Knights Templar.
Yes.
I think this is where the story of Freemasonry really starts taking shape, is with the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
So who were the Knights Templar? That was an order of knights, obviously, formed in the year, it was 1119 CE. So, you know, the medieval times.
Yeah.
And this was immediately following the First Crusade.
Yeah.
And basically the role of the Knights Templar, they were basically these warrior monks. They took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And their motto was like serving God through battle.
Yeah.
And basically what their role was is they were protecting pilgrims who were traveling to the Holy Land after the First Crusade. And they set up their headquarters on the Temple Mount, which is basically the ruins of Solomon's Temple.
Right. Yeah.
Now, these knights who took vows of poverty initially, as the years went on, they amassed a great deal of power and wealth.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, they became incredibly wealthy and very influential because what they would do is basically the Knights Templar, they invented an early form of checking because they were protectors of pilgrims to the Holy Land.
Right.
And they would let people deposit money before they left Europe.
Oh.
And then withdraw it once they got to the Holy Land.
So they're kind of like they invented the modern banking system. Is that what you're saying?
Very much so.
Interesting.
And they amassed all this wealth. And their headquarters was on the Temple Mount. And it's alleged that they discovered all sorts of hidden treasures while they were there.
Right.
Like they found the Ark of the Covenant and they found the Holy Grail there.
Well, I will just say devil's advocate. When you've got a job to do, you need resources. Resources help. So sometimes you can't get the job done that you want to do if you take a vow of poverty, right? And maybe it's not personal. They're not personally enriching themselves, but they need resources.
Yeah. And as knights, they were incredibly feared and respected. They kind of had outposts set up all throughout the Holy Land, and they were very feared in battle. But they were amassing all this wealth. They got into other forms of banking too, aside from just issuing checks. They would give out loans and actually charge interest on those loans. Now, charging interest is considered a sin by the Catholic Church.
Right.
That's called usury.
Yeah.
And they're engaging in usury on the grounds of the temple. Now they got around this order of Catholic Knights. They got around this because they said technically we're not charging interest. We're not engaging in usury. But we are going to charge you a fee. We're going to charge you a recurring fee for this money we've lent you.
Right.
It's not interest.
It's a fee.
It's a fee.
Interesting.
But yes,
These guys do sound more and more like bankers.
Yeah. But anyway, they become very powerful, very influential. Aside from being knights, they become very influential in banking and politics. This all comes to a head in the 1300s. King Philip IV of France, he's had enough of the Templars, partially because he is deep in debt with the Templars, because the Templars have lent him so much money to finance this series of wars he's waged, and he's deep in debt with them.
Doesn't want to pay his debts.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden these Templar guys got to go.
Yeah, so he conspires with the Pope Clement V. Him and King Philip conspire together to declare the Templars heretics and outlaw this order. And then on one night, it's October 13th, 1307, Friday the 13th. That's actually where we get this legend that's a bad luck day, Friday the 13th. The word goes out, arrest every single Knight Templar you can find.
You know what this is just... I'm sorry, this is a weird tangent, but you know what's just firing in my brain as you're telling that story? Mm-hmm. Is Order 66.
Order 66. It was like Order 66.
Like, okay, these guys have fulfilled the role we needed them for. Order 66, we got to shut them down, and now they're enemies of the state.
Yeah, it was basically the medieval version of Order 66.
Wow.
So the word goes out, arrest every Templar you can find, and these guys are being accused of heresy. So these guys are arrested, they are imprisoned, they are tortured. And under torture, these knights confess to all sorts of unspeakable things.
As you would, right?
Yeah. Torture. They're being tortured. Never been a reliable source of information.
Yeah, under duress.
But, they confess to conducting satanic rites at the site of the temple. This is not looking good for them. But, the one consistent thing, interestingly enough, the one consistency in these different stories given by the Templars as they were being tortured is the name Baphomet. This deity called Baphomet that they apparently all worship.
Sounds familiar.
Yes, we mentioned it in the Shining episode.
Yeah. The
gesture, as above, so below. Supposed to symbolize a unity of heaven and earth and a balance of justice and mercy.
Yeah, and isn't that the deity that the Bilderberg group? Or am I conflating two different things?
I don't believe the Bilderberg group has a deity.
Oh, what am I thinking of? What's the Alex Jones, Guys in the Woods, the
Bohemian Grove?
Yeah.
That's Moloch, not Baphomet.
Okay, sorry. I got all my secret societies confused.
They're all kind of tied together.
Yeah. Sorry, pardon me.
Anyway, not looking good for the Templars. Heresy. Their Grand Master, his name was Jacques de Molay. He is burned at the stake. The stories are kind of told about him being burned at the stake, that he was burned at the stake on the day of a solar eclipse, and the sky was red. And when Jacques Molay was being burned, he didn't cry out in pain or anything. He was seen slowly mouthing something to the crowd. It's not really known what he was saying.
Yeah, that sounds...
People tell stories he was placing some kind of curse on the Pope and the King. Yeah, wow. Interesting stuff. Anyway, but the night the Templars had been all arrested, the night of Order 66, as it were.
Yeah.
They didn't get all the Templars. The Templars had some foresight that things were going to turn against them.
Obi-Wan and Yoda got away.
Yeah. So some of the barracks the Templars had, they were empty. And a lot of this wealth they had accumulated, or, treasures they had unearthed, it's gone. It's been spirited away somewhere. So where did they go? Apparently, a lot of them ended up in Scotland, which at the time was outside of the control of the Pope.
Right. It
was out of the Pope's jurisdiction, so they
Exile.
went to Scotland.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Templars were actually taken in and sheltered by this noble family in Scotland called the Sinclairs, or St. Clairs.
Okay.
Actually, the Sinclair family is very well known. Probably what they're most well known for is this place called Rosalind Chapel. It was built by William Sinclair in the 15th century. And it's just a super fascinating place in Scotland because it's like this, it's this church, and it's got all this weird, not Christian symbolism carved into it.
What kind of symbolism is it?
It's got carvings of what are called green men, and these are basically like human figures with like vines and plants growing out of their mouths and eyes and all over their body. There's also what looks like kind of proto-Masonic symbolism carved into the church. There's also carvings of corn maze and cactus carved into the church, which are plants native to North America.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And this
and Central America.
Yeah, this was long before this church was built, before
North America
the New World had been discovered. And there's
there's
this whole story of how William Sinclair actually sailed to North America about 100 years before Columbus.
Is this Oak Island stuff?
Yes, Oak Island does come up because kind of a few hundred years later, these maps are discovered that supposedly are attributed to William Sinclair that display the coast of Nova Scotia, including an island which is now known as Oak Island.
Yeah.
And basically what these maps have is a treasure map of different locations on Oak Island, where the Templars allegedly hid all these treasures they'd unearthed, the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, along with, all the wealth they had accumulated.
Yeah, I'm
while they were banking.
I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Oak Island. There's a whole Discovery Channel series devoted to it.
Yeah.
I've not watched it, but as I understand, like they've been able to excavate and find lots of kind of underground construction.
Yeah,
that's
and
quite advanced for how old it is.
They've found carvings which actually seem to display a lot of imagery associated with not only the Templars but also the Freemasons. But how do we get from Templars to Freemasons?
Yeah.
So the Sinclair family shelters the surviving Templars. And it's a noble family. The Templars are kind of absorbed into this circle, and they marry into nobility.
Yeah.
And they kind of over time become the nobility of Europe. The same nobility of Europe, which would later be absorbed in an honorary way into the stonemason guilds, which later evolved into the Freemasons. That's the lineage between the Templars and the Freemasons.
Right.
But anyway, back to Oak Island and the treasure. So even now, like so many people hunt for this treasure. They go to Oak Island.
Yeah.
But
there's a whole legend that I think 7 people need to die. There's like a prophecy that when 7 people die in search of the treasure of Oak Island, then it will be discovered or something. And 6 people have died in searching for it, if I'm getting the legend correct. But like I said, I haven't paid too close attention to that show and what they've been doing. But interesting connection.
But what if the treasure's not even there anymore? Because there is a story. There is a story that in the lead up to the American Revolution, again all those American revolutionaries, most of them were Freemasons.
Right. Yeah.
And if this was where the treasure of the Templars was buried, that knowledge probably would have been passed down at the top levels of Freemasonry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a legend that the American revolutionaries actually went to Oak Island and dug up this treasure and used it to fund not only the American Revolution, but also the French Revolution. Because on July 1st, 1776, not everyone there at the Continental Congress wanted to go to war with England. A lot of people were against this. This fellow John Dickinson, he was a delegate from Philadelphia. He's quoted. He said, "Unprepared as we are making a mistake. We are braving the storm on a skiff made of paper."
Wow.
Basically, he was saying
we are going up.
We are going up against the greatest standing army, the greatest fighting force on the face of the earth, and we have nothing.
Yeah.
We have this ragtag group of
Well,
rowdies
yeah.
to fight them with.
I mean, they didn't have nothing. They had a great advantage in the fact that they had a foothold in the colonies,
yeah,
right?
but
That
still,
was their greatest advantage, which turned out to be enough at the end of the day, right?
but questions are asked is like, how is all the guns and ammunition and hiring the soldiers, how is that all financed? And the legend is they went to Oak Island, they knew where the treasure was,
Right.
with that lineage from the Templars, and they used that to finance the war. And the Americans, they had help. They didn't do it all alone. The Americans had help from the French.
Yeah.
The French army came to the aid of the Americans in the American Revolution. And actually, this fellow I mentioned in our last episode, Marquis de Lafayette, he was a very close ally of George Washington, also a fellow Freemason. And he was the one who helped George Washington secure military aid from the French.
Right.
How was that arrangement made? Was this some of this Templar treasure shared with the French? Marquis de Lafayette, after he fought in the American Revolution, he went home to France, and he would later write the document, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen.
Yeah.
A very important document of the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Guy was in both revolutions. and
Yeah, I mean,
Freemason.
they do, the French Revolution and the American Revolution do echo each other, right?
Yeah.
And they're both battles for liberating the people from an
Yeah.
oppressive government or monarchy or force or what have you. Yeah, I guess monarchy in both cases.
Yeah.
So yeah, they very much echo and mirror each other, right? And that's the interesting piece that I took from our first episode on Freemasonry is the ideals of Freemasonry and of free men being able to determine their own destinies are very much themes and ideas that percolated within both those revolutions. So seeing the kind of threads of influence behind those revolutions from those systems of thought are really interesting. Interesting.
You know what's a really, just as a little tangent, what's a really interesting thing I noticed?
What's that?
The Illuminati. You know what year Adam Weishaupt founded the Illuminati in Bavaria?
I have no idea.
He founded the Illuminati on May 1st, 1776. Exactly 2 months before the Declaration of Independence. And Adam Weishaupt, I mean, you were talking before about how the Illuminati may have infiltrated Masonry and tried to take over.
There was a plot.
Well, I mean, Adam Weishaupt was a Freemason, and most of the original members of the Illuminati were Freemasons.
Makes sense.
The whole structure.
Because they borrow all the ideas from.
Yeah, the whole structure of the Illuminati was based on Freemasonry. It was basically like an offshoot of Freemasonry. To
which there are numerous.
Yeah, they had all the rituals and the degrees. They also had code names for each other in the Illuminati.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Adam Weishaupt, he actually called himself Spartacus at the Illuminati meetings.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But, the
Spartacus.
Illuminati was, outlawed pretty quickly. It was disbanded.
Yeah.
And kind of got reabsorbed into the Freemason
Freemasonry.
lodges.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to that. Kind of this organization formed and then was reabsorbed into the Freemasons.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people probably reached really high levels within Freemasonry.
Yeah, stands to reason.
But, the whole idea of the Illuminati, it was an organization formed in protest of the authority of the church and the monarchy. They wanted a secular society that was, of the people, by the people, for the people, all those very popular ideas. And what's the reputation?
The core of Western civilization as we know it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the Illuminati, it kind of reminds me of that quote from Batman. You either die a hero or you live to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Now in our kind of modern discourse, the Illuminati is seen as very villainous.
Yeah, the secret authority that runs everything.
Because, they were formed as being very anti-elite.
Yeah.
But now they are seen as the elites that are
yeah.
secretly controlling everything.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, so where do we go from here? Where do we go from the Templars? Order 66 comes down. They go into exile and hiding in Scotland and eventually North America.
We've got
they're intertwined into Freemasonry and the American Revolution. Where is this all leading?
Would you like to discuss a man named Albert Pike?
Sure.
Okay, so Albert Pike, who was he? He was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. He was also a brigadier general in the Civil War, and he was also a member of the KKK. Very controversial man.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, he's the only Confederate general from the Civil War who had a statue of him erected in Washington, D.C. And it was not because of his service during the Civil War. It was because of his service to Freemasonry.
Huh.
That statue is no longer there, by the way. It was torn down in 2020.
Yeah, in the civil unrest.
Yes. Anyway, Albert Pike, he is well known for a couple of things. He wrote this book called Morals and Dogma.
Yeah.
And that's almost considered like the Bible of Scottish Rite Freemasonry.
Right. Yeah.
It was all of Albert Pike's. It was like a blend of Kabbalah, Hermeticism, Gnosticism, Christian mysticism. It was basically all of the doctrines of Scottish Rite Freemasonry.
Right.
And apparently when you join the Scottish Rite, they will give you a copy of this book.
Right.
And it's yours, but it must be returned to the lodge upon your death.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's odd. So the same editions must cycle through members then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably some like really old books, really old copies of this book floating around within Freemason lodges. Anyway, the other thing Albert Pike is really known for, other than being so damn controversial, was this letter he allegedly wrote.
Yes. This is with the predictions or the
Yes,
prophecies
so-
for the future he had. Yeah.
Let me find the year here. Allegedly, on August 15th, 1871, Albert Pike wrote a letter to fellow Freemason Giuseppe Mazzini, who was an Italian revolutionary. I have it in my notes here, who totally did not found the mafia.
Okay.
He is often attributed for some reason with founding the Italian mafia.
Oh.
He didn't actually, but a lot of his writings and his ideas were later incorporated by the people who did found the mafia.
Right. So he was inspiration.
Yeah.
Inspiration behind
He's like the godfather of the mafia. But
I wonder why that confuses people.
But not the literal godfather of the mafia. Anyway,
nicely done.
This Giuseppe Mazzini and Albert Pike, they have many correspondences. They're fellow Freemasons. Albert Pike has cultivated a friendship with this man.
Yeah.
And allegedly, Albert Pike writes this letter in which he's outlining the big plan.
Okay.
Their big secret plan. They've been manipulating world events for so long. This is how it all culminates. And basically, the plan he outlined is they need to engineer 3 world wars. I actually have like a copy of this alleged letter here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, the First World War would be instigated in order to overthrow the Russian czars and spread atheistic communism. That happened.
All right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The Second World War would be engineered to pit fascism against political Zionism, establish Israel in Palestine as a state, strengthen communism to counterbalance Christianity.
Oh, that feels fairly accurate.
Sounds accurate. So, a lot of other stuff happened in those world wars, but you could say that was the results of those world wars. The Third World War, which we have yet to see. Listen to this. This is right from the letter. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. This is sounding like today.
Yeah.
Like right now. So what happens after this? What's the point?
Yeah.
He continues. Pike continues. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all of its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization. The multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Wow. That's eerie.
So
It
basically,
does feel very accurate to our current age. And so, and I know the source of that letter is somewhat questionable.
yeah, so
But
where did we get this letter?
If I just might say before we dive into that, whoever wrote it, amazingly prescient, because that's all very. I guess it depends on when that would have been written.
Yeah, so there's problems with this letter being written by Albert Pike in 1871 because he's using phrases like fascism, Zionism,
Yeah.
the word Nazism even comes up in one point. None of these terms even existed yet.
Right. Yeah.
None of these terms had even been used. But I mean, how that's often explained is when people are writing about this letter, we'll get to where it originally surfaced. Most of the copies we have of this letter are not the original script. They're kind of paraphrasing the letter.
Right.
That's why these terms are inserted in there.
I see. Got you. So that might not have been the exact terminology used.
Yeah.
But then that just further muddies the water, though, right?
Yeah.
Because then you, especially then, every iteration of that story, you can retcon, language into it, giving the illusion of highly accurate prophecy.
Yeah. But
by updating it over time.
This does get a little muddy, because where did we first get this letter? When did we first hear about it? A lot of people will originally attribute this letter to a Canadian guy, a conspiracy theory author, who in the 1950s. Sorry?
Oh, the 1950s. I was going to say, that sounds like you.
No, in the 1950s,
Canadian conspiracy theorist.
In the 1950s, this fellow William Guy Carrs wrote a book called Pawns in the Game, in which he cites this letter frequently. A lot of people will tell you that it's the first appearance of this letter. That is untrue. This letter is first referenced in 1924 in a book titled El Misterio de la Masonería, or Mystery of the Masons, which was written by a Chilean Roman Catholic cleric named Cardinal Caro Rodriguez, which he wrote in the 1920s. So clearly there was foresight of two of the world wars. The first one had already happened. Now, Caro Rodriguez, he took a very anti-Masonic stance. He did not have nice things to say about Freemasonry in his book.
Okay.
But that is the earliest reference to this letter.
Gotcha.
Has gone back to the 1920s. So the Second World War had not happened yet. Fascism was still... the word was out there.
Yeah.
It was a fairly new word. The National Socialist Party in Germany was just kind of getting going.
Yeah.
The term political Zionism, I do not know whether that was out there in the terminology as far back as the 20s.
Yeah.
But still very controversial whether Albert Pike actually wrote this letter, but we do know it at least goes back to the 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, what resonates for me is just circling back to the point that despite its origins, you can look at it and take the accuracy that's in it and reflect on our current moment in history. Mm-hmm. And if it gives you a window or a capability to kind of reflect at our moment in history and what's going on and ponder what we should be doing about it, if it serves that purpose, then maybe it's useful, regardless of its origin. But anyway,
very controversial letter. Many people claim it's a hoax. Many people swear it's real. People have reported sightings of the original copy of this letter in museums.
Right.
Museums that will claim they've never seen it, never heard of it. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, museums are funny things because there's so much that isn't on display in museums.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And like most stuff in museums, it's kept in archive.
Yeah.
You know, and never sees a display case. If there's any institutions in the world like the Freemasons that are holding deep secrets, you know, it's look at museums, look at the Smithsonian, look at the British Museum. Like
but
the wealth of hidden information that just kind of is buried in catalogs.
Yeah, and if you ever go to a museum, like they don't put the good stuff out on display. The good stuff, it's out back.
Yeah.
It's in the back.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Even when I was doing research for the first episode on Freemasonry, and I looked up the local Alberta Lodge, they have their own museum, which is not open to the public, but you can just write them and say, I want to view this thing from your catalog. And they'll set up like an appointment time for you to come in and have a private viewing of whatever they have in
we
their
should
catalog.
have done that.
Well, I'm busy, you know. It was
Yeah,
a
I'm pretty busy too.
couple weeks.
I'm pretty busy too.
And I guess a lot of museums will do that.
Yeah.
Where they'll have some kind of online research with a full catalog of everything they have in archive. And you can just arrange private viewings. Mm-hmm. Right? But it's who does that, right? Who does that? Researchers with a lot of time on their hands.
So, 3 world wars. The Freemasons have engineered all the major wars over the past hundreds of years.
Is that what you get from this? Well, I mean, I think you could make an argument for the French Revolution and American Revolution. Yeah, which are wars, I guess. But those were wars of idealism, right?
I mean, they are wars.
Yeah,
like it's called the
wars.
Revolutionary War.
Conflicts. Yeah, but I guess where I was going is when you said that, immediately my brain turned that into war for war's sake, like for war profiteering.
I mean, what the letter is getting at is they have engineered these wars carefully to bring about the social change necessary to ready the world for their vision, their world, their government.
Which, supposedly, if we're to believe this letter, is some kind of satanic worship.
Well, Lucifer. Luciferian, not satanic, Luciferian, because
Define
Albert Pike,
define the difference
when Albert Pike talks in Morals and Dogma about Lucifer, he's not talking about the Christian idea of, Satan, the devil. He's talking about Lucifer, the light bearer. Yeah. Lucifer, the Promethean figure who gifts humanity with the light and the knowledge. That's the Lucifer he's talking about. But those two kind of deities get conflated a lot.
Right. Are they not actually the same at the end? Just it all depends on whose propaganda you're listening to.
It depends on who you ask. It really depends on who you ask. I mean, if you ask the Catholic Church, they'll say, oh yeah, they're the same.
Yeah.
Those are the same things. Lucifer, Satan, the devil.
Yeah.
That's the same. But, according to Albert Pike, no, that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about the light bearer, the son of the morning.
Okay.
The bringer of the knowledge. That's who I'm talking about.
All right. Okay. All right. Fascinating stuff. Really interesting. Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, whether or not you believe the Masons engineered all of this world of history, they definitely got their fingerprints all over.
Oh, yeah.
Have you taken
whether it was a grand design or it just kind of unfolded and they were there for it all is kind of a question mark, right?
Yeah. But I mean, look at like Washington D.C., kind of arguably the seat of power of the free world, the place in the world where the most power is concentrated. Like look at it. Like embedded
for the moment, anyway.
Embedded in the design of the street grids, you have the square and compass.
Yeah.
Embedded right in the design. That was called the Pierre Lafont plan. The architect or civil engineer involved was also a Freemason.
Yeah.
even when they were building the Capitol building, George Washington, he personally laid the cornerstone of the Capitol building, and he did so in like this grand Masonic ceremony. He was dressed in like his full Freemason regalia. He was wearing his sash and his apron, and he was carrying the little like square and compass with him. And there's other stuff too. I mean, the Washington Monument, that is a direct reference to ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
The obelisk, like the symbolism of the obelisk in like ancient Egyptian terms, it's supposed to be a frozen ray of sunlight embedded in the ground. And that's how like Americans and Freemasons especially view George Washington. He's the bringer of the light.
Yeah.
Also the White House, there are many buildings in Washington, D.C., which are like aligned with celestial events that kind of mirror the pyramids of Giza. Yeah. Like the White House, the Capitol building, and the Washington Monument are aligned with the river, in the same alignment that the pyramids are aligned with the Nile River.
Right.
Where they're supposed to mirror the stars in Orion's belt, and the river's supposed to be the band of the Milky Way galaxy.
And there's an obelisk.
Yeah. That's the Washington Monument. Yeah. But right between...
And also, I wanted to point out, in Paris, France, there's an obelisk taken directly from Luxor in Egypt, displayed centrally, right? Paris, Washington, both centers of those revolutions, right? Mm-hmm. Both influenced heavily by Freemasonry, going back through history, through the Templars, to the esoteric belief systems of ancient Egypt. Like, it all ties together in this massive web.
Yeah.
You know? It's funny. I know it's like drawing connections to things that don't officially exist, but it's all pretty self-evident once you dig into it. But you wouldn't read about any of this in a history book.
No,
right?
You've
been studying American history.
Yeah.
None of this is in there, right?
Not
why,
really.
Why
no.
isn't it in there, right? So I think that's part of the root of why this is all conspiracy. Falls into the bucket, I'll say, of conspiracy theory. Although it's not really a conspiracy or a theory. All of these things we're talking about are documented real things. Mm-hmm. You know, and those connections do exist.
Yeah, American presidents, there have been, we're on President 47, but there's actually been 45 people. Two of them have done non-consecutive terms. There's been 45 people. About a third of them confirmed Freemasons. Another third of them suspected Freemasons. Because for some people, membership in the Freemasons is a private thing. Some people are very open about it. Even the previous president, Joe Biden, Freemason. Barack Obama, suspected Freemason. Bill Clinton, Freemason. Richard Nixon, Freemason. Going right back to George Washington. Even the first three presidents, like George Washington, John Adams, both Freemasons. Thomas Jefferson, suspected Freemason.
Yeah.
So people with a great deal of power and influence, and that's what the whole thing is. It's a network of influence.
Yeah.
But you had a guy you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we can get into that for sure. Sorry, I just kind of spaced there. I was like, I don't know where we're going with all this. I find it all really interesting. But I'm glad we've got a moment we can actually dig into this. So you could almost make a whole episode here, but I'll try and contain it into just like 10 minutes.
Well, I know nothing about this.
Okay, so the Count of Saint Germain. Fascinating character, and he's got some connections to Freemasonry. So, Count of Saint Germain, his exact origins are unknown. He's potentially of Transylvania or Austrian Netherlands. So, he was born somewhere in the area of 1710 to 1712.
Okay.
Again, origins uncertain. And so, who is this guy? He's kind of described as a polymath courtier of Europe. In this time period. He was a very prolific musician and composer, apparently an expert violinist, by all accounts, a painter, an alchemist, a linguist. Apparently he spoke upwards of 40 languages, all European languages and some Eastern languages as well. He was a diplomat and a confidant of various European royals. He was a frequent guest of the courts across France, England, and Germany, and he was renowned for his incredibly enigmatic charm. Like, the guy had riz, I guess is how the kids say it.
Is that a thing that they say?
It's like charisma.
Riz?
Yeah. Sorry, I regret throwing it in there.
I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. And now what's it I'm no longer with.
But anyway, yeah, very charismatic, right? Almost a supernatural level of charisma and charm this guy had. Actually, I've got some accounts of actual interactions with other historical figures, kind of recounting their interactions with Saint Germain. The French Enlightenment writer and philosopher Voltaire had interactions with Saint Germain and described him as a man who knows everything and never dies. So we'll get into that to the second, because he's the rumor is that he's actually immortal.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this guy is sounding a lot like
Highlander, like the guy. Yeah,
I was going to say he sounds a lot like the vampire Lestat from the Anne Rice books.
That's another one. Yeah, my mind went to Highlander. But yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Casanova, Venetian adventurer and writer Giacomo Casanova, met Saint Germain and noted his charm and intelligence. Madame de Pompadour, the mistress of King Louis XV of France, who reportedly acquainted with Saint Germain and known to have attended her salons. Countess von Gregory, in 1760, Countess von Gregory encountered Saint Germain in Paris and was struck by his youthful appearance. She had recalled meeting the same man in Venice in 1710, who she says appeared about 45 at the time, and she was markedly shocked at how he had not changed in that span of time. He looked exactly the same decades later. And when she commented on this, he cryptically responded, "Madam, I am very old."
I have a prediction how this story ends. You finished your research and you looked up a picture of him, and you looked at the picture and you're like, oh my God, that's Elon Musk.
Or who else? Who are the other immortals? What is Keanu Reeves? Is one of those people who just look like they never age or whatever. But anyway, Saint Germain, there's suspected connections to the Rosicrucians as well as other kind of mystical societies. Like the Theosophical Society. And he also became a 33rd degree Freemason in the Scottish Rite. And it's actually thought that he helped develop within Freemasonry a lot of what is now known of the tiers of the Scottish Rite and the rituals behind it. So the theory is that he's, through his vast esoteric knowledge and experience in alchemy, he was able to discover the fountain of youth. And this is the secret of his immortality. And that through his alchemy, he was also able to create diamonds from wood chips or something. He had just this incredible esoteric knowledge, and he kind of knew these secrets of the universe.
So he's forever young.
He's forever young.
He probably knows what Riz means.
Yeah, he probably knows what Riz means. He's probably still around. He probably invented that term, now that I think about it.
Do better, Count Germain.
Hold on. I'm trying to find something here. Cult stuff. Okay, here we go. So yeah, the kind of legends that circle around him within Masonry. So within certain Masonic and occult traditions, especially Martinism, which is one of the more mystical branches of Freemasonry, Saint Germain is described as one of the hidden masters, or the unknown superiors. So these are figures who guide spiritual development behind the scenes of these esoteric practices in Freemasonry and Theosophy and elsewhere, right? So this kind of points to the idea that it's kind of that dark allure of these occult practices and secret societies, is that if you get involved and if you start learning the rites and participating in the rituals and you rank up, you're going to be gifted or endowed with certain secrets that are going to empower you in some way. And in his case, immortality was part of that. It does, again, I know I'm bringing up Assassin's Creed a lot, but there's so much of this story that is baked into that. It made me think, wouldn't it be funny if, like, when you became a 33rd degree Freemason, if, like, the secret you learn is parkour or something, like ultimate parkour powers.
Parkour. That's what the kids say, right?
Yeah, so anyway, a lot of fun stuff there. And yeah, so he's rumored to have died, I guess officially thought to have died all the way back in 1784, although for decades, many decades after, sightings of him continued to roll in throughout Europe and other parts of the world. So that further kind of fueled the rumor that he was in fact immortal.
You know, right? In all seriousness, that story actually really reminds me of Vlad the Impaler. Who, even after he died, decades and even centuries later, there were supposedly sightings of him.
Yeah.
Which is how we got the story of Dracula.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe this is just, because that was a couple centuries before this even, right?
Yeah.
So it could be even just an echo of the same legend.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe Vlad the Impaler maybe he's another one of the hidden,
or maybe it's the same
masters.
Guy.
Yeah, maybe it's the same immortal
guy.
Yeah, could be.
That's why I'm like, who is he now?
Yeah.
Is he Elon Musk?
Yeah. Well, and like that's part of the legend within, the pop culture legend of vampires is that they have this kind of supernatural charisma, right?
Yeah.
It's a predatory thing that helps them subdue their victims.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting stuff. Anyway, I just love stories about that guy. I find him like a fascinating character within history and really interesting connections to those secret societies, esoteric orders of influence. And I just found that interesting. Thank you for making some space for me to get to that. I thought for sure we're going through this episode and you're bringing out all this really detailed history stuff. And I'm like, oh man, we're not going to get to my segment again.
No, I had never heard of this guy before you mentioned it. So I didn't do any research on it. So I really wanted to hear about it.
Great. All right. And you got anything else for us? We're pretty close. I mean, we could wrap it up.
Well, I mean, like I was saying before, regardless of whether the Masons engineered like all of history for the past 1,000 years, they definitely got their fingerprints all over it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Masonic flag on the North Pole and the South Pole
and
the moon.
Yeah.
Buzz Aldrin, 33rd degree Freemason. You can see him wearing his Masonic signet ring in like the picture they took before they went on the mission.
Oh, wow.
He's wearing his Masonic signet ring,
Yeah.
and he planted a Masonic flag on the moon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so you're right. It's like their fingerprints are everywhere.
And
so what does that mean?
It's funny that the moon missions, they named it the Apollo program. Apollo, also kind of a deity that's kind of tied to, Prometheus and Lucifer, Apollo's fire. Apollo is the light bearer.
Yeah.
Like Lucifer. And they call it the Apollo program, but what's on the mission emblem? It's the stars of Orion.
Right. Yeah.
It's right on the mission patch is Orion, which is like really important to the Freemasons. And now we've got this upcoming moon mission called Artemis, who was the companion to Orion in mythology.
Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but what is the significance? Do you know what the significance of the stars of Orion being on that patch are in relation to the mission itself? Like
in relation to the mission, no. I found that confusing because the mission is called Apollo, but the stars of Orion are really prominent on the mission patch.
Huh, interesting. I wonder if there's kind of a public justification for why that is.
Yeah, I didn't find one.
Military patches is a whole interesting kind of rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
It might be a really boring one, especially for an audio show because it's such a visual thing. There's some interesting stuff there with mission patches.
I mean, we could always do like a little bonus episode for the YouTube crowd if we've got a topic
video.
That's more visual. We could do like just a bonus episode for YouTube.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. I hope that eventually we will evolve to the point where we can do some video production stuff, but I think that's a little ways away for us yet.
Oh yeah,
We're still in our early days, but
yeah,
one day we'll figure that out.
yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we're at a really great time. We've got our stuff. We've got an episode here. So I think let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Tell all your friends. Download the episode on every platform you have.
Every last one.
Every last one. Like and subscribe. Help us out. That's
leave us a rating on Spotify.
Yeah,
too.
leave us a rating. Yeah, give us a review on Apple, whatever. You can always leave a review at least. Comment if you can. And if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really helps us grow and keeps us going on this end, and we really appreciate it. So with that, we'll let it go, and we'll say enjoy the rest of your weekend, and good night.
Good night.